Hey, and welcome back to Dragonborn Industries, where we're carrying on the Wasson Cornwall Series, and I'm joined today by Mark. Mark, who are you?
I'm a person.
You are. I can confirm. Definitely a mortal.
Immortal or mortal?
A mortal.
Ah, okay, cool.
I got a bit muggle.
I'm just a Cornish through and through chap that does content online and likes to entertain people in hopefully a good way.
Yeah, and we will talk about that because I think it is a good way. So, Mark, you're obviously from, and for anybody watching who doesn't necessarily already know, Mark is from his own channel, 6+Save, where you create a lot of painting content, a lot of discussion content, a lot of community-driven content for both your Twitch and your YouTube. And I guess, what is your... let's start with kind of like who you are. What's like the main drive of your content and what you hope to do with your content, so that if somebody's to come in and they're about to click off this and click through the video, what's the elevator pitch? Go.
So basically it is wargaming, how to get into it, how to enjoy it and get the most out of it, and there's no gatekeeping. Like, if you just want to read books, go ahead, read books. If you want to paint minis because of those books, that law, go ahead. If you want to play games to recreate fictional stories or historical reenactment, go for it. Whatever is painting, enjoyment, kit bashing, dioramas, whatever. I've seen some amazing people out there that just go, I like reading this book, this Games Workshop book, let's say Horus Heresy or anything like that.
Popular series.
Yeah. For good reasons. I love it. I'm going to say that right now. And you find some lovely busts out there of Space Marines.
Yep.
Space Marine X Legion. And they just paint it up.
Yep.
Because they love that book. But they never play the game. So what? They're enjoying that hobby. And then you go into historical ones. They want to just have a family connection. They may have had someone in the military or something like that. They want to paint up said model in that scheme.
Like bolt action, let's say.
Yes. And 100%. And then D&D, I know you may dabble in some role play from time to time.
No!
And it's
Not here. I wouldn't. No.
And it's that kind of thing, is because I want to say tabletop wargaming is so vast.
It is. It's hugely vast. And it's all-encompassing.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why I wanted to chat to you. So, for anybody who is watching and is now here after the elevator pitch, Mark has a channel that you started from Cornwall. How many years ago now was it?
Oh, dear God. I started well over 10 years ago, where it was called Raging Chaos. So
Love it.
Some people that...
Raging Chaos!
Yes, they will find certain clips from back in the day. I was very young and naive. I'm old and naive now.
Please, sir, I'm just so naive.
Yes, and I done gaming on there, like a lot of people would, and I done wargaming, Warhammer and stuff like that on there, and I went off to uni, not it went off to uni, I went off to college and uni, so that put on the pause. And then COVID time, I like COVID, seems to be this biblical time, like AD and BC now.
It's like it's like the age of strife.
Yeah.
Like just before the unification wars. It is just like everybody disbanded. But at the same time, everybody started getting back into the hobbies.
Yeah, 100%. It was
great.
It was this huge, utopia of people getting into crafting and painting and hobbying and reading and listening and networking. That was a great thing as well. And I was like, me and the partner were living in an annex, very, very, very diddy annex, very poor internet, like 2 megabyte upload and download. So as soon as you'd done multiple things, it would crash. So I just carried on painting. We then had the luxury of moving out to a lovely bungalow. We had internet, thank God for that. So
makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, it's first world problems.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, now they're saying it's a human right. It's within
because of communication. Humanity is a very social organism.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're an introvert or any of these things, you still socialise in one form or another, either through social media, chatting to people. You still have that human interaction.
One way or another, you get that dopamine hit from being that.
And that's what made me kind of think of, oh, wait a minute, I've got this channel. Wait a minute, it's still a... Let's CPR this and get it back up and live. And I was like, I need to kind of rebrand it a bit because it was very childish looking and stuff like that. And when I'm wargaming, I seem to pass a lot of 6-up saves.
Oh, I like it.
And that's where the name came from. It wasn't my idea. I think it was a few work colleagues.
Oh, really?
At the time, just went, 6-up save. I was like, I'll take it.
And that's how your nickname came about. And it's like, oh, so Mark is literally 6 plus save.
Yeah, and that's where it came from.
Nice.
And then it was like, cool, let's throw stuff out there that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It was more, this is still a hobby.
Yeah.
I'm not under any pretense of, you're going to become one of these YouTubers and stuff like that. No.
Pro YouTuber Warhammer gamer. It's quite a thing to actually achieve.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do.
100%. And we can discuss it later. It is very much, it's not as easy as it sounds. There's been a lot of hurdles for me to learn and still learn.
I too am getting shit on a lot. Yeah. It's usually my own fault.
Yeah.
But like it is a huge thing, and actually it's something I'd like to talk to you about as we progress later on, is like the challenges of trying to become a streamer and trying to keep it fun. So you gain the name 6 plus save, and then obviously rebrand happens, and then so I guess like 2020 onwards.
Yeah, basically.
You were like, right, well, this is kind of like who I am, because you were already working within the tabletop world, as it were, I guess, and
to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, yeah. Like I'm not going to go into your personal life or anything like that.
Good.
Because I'm sure if you go follow Mark's channel, you'll learn it all anyway. And like let's leave some mystery so that people come along, because like I've taken part like in a few of your streams, and it's been a little while now because unfortunately I'm trying to do the same thing as well.
100%.
And but it's what I always really like is that you have this amazing engagement with your audience, and there's always somebody in, and whether they're coming in from Discord or they're coming in from Twitch, you do have this lovely, very homely way of engaging with your community, and it's something that I am slightly jealous of, because
you're going to make me blush in a minute and make me cry.
I don't have the same pizzazz. I don't have that same that Cornish hospitality, because we were talking about like going up to Warhammer World before. You're from down here in Cornwall.
Yeah.
I'm from Nottingham, where like I spent my entire lifetime 10 minutes away from Warhammer World and never went until I moved down here. And so it's interesting to do this like Wasson Cornwall series and meet people like yourselves, and having taken part in your streams in terms of like just viewer watching or meeting other people around. And for me to come from this like hustle and bustle of a city life to then down here where it is like everyone's so chilled and homely and relaxed, that I'm just like, I want a piece of the pie. I want a slice of it, and it's really quite admirable to watch your shows like that. So I guess you had the rebrand, and because obviously 6 plus save, it's a Warhammer term, but you don't just cover 40k, do you?
No.
Like I know that a lot of it can be 40k, and like I'm pretty sure from watching you and seeing all of your posts, you are a huge Dark Angels fan. That seems to be your faction of choice.
Where's the watcher? The watcher.
Yeah, so like, I want to jump onto that first. Where did your 40k love begin? Because you spoke about the lore, you spoke about the books and like painting. Like, where was your journey in 40k starting?
It started, funnily enough, when I was 8 years old, or near enough 8 years old. So
we won't ask how long ago that was.
Many moons ago.
Many moons.
I think it was like third or fourth edition. So it was some time ago now, because it's like 10th edition now, and I am dyslexic and dyspraxic.
Boom! Same. Well, I'm dyspraxic. I unfortunately can't claim the first D, but the dyspraxia and the PTSD, I'm all for it.
So I do struggle to read, write, and do mathematics, but I do it backwards. It's one of the learning traits and so on and so forth. And I really, really love reading and learning stuff and just disappearing into that world.
Escapism.
Yeah. And I love Arthurian legend, I love Celtic stuff and Saxons and ancient history, and something about Games Workshop back in the day, they love to be like, oh, wait a minute, there's this history, let's nab this bit of history and put it in an armoured suit. Space Wolves, Space Vikings, Ultramarines, Romans, unless I'm mistaken. You got White Scars and Mongolians, and so on and so forth.
There is definitely
influences.
Yeah, because Alex, who actually normally sits where I am, is a huge lore fan of 40k. He has read. I'm pretty sure he has now finished reading every book that's currently out for the Horus Heresy. So like all 64 is it? And it's something that like for some reason I brag about the fact that he's done it, because like it means that I don't have to. Because like my intro to the hobby is that my friends all were like, oh, we're going to go to Games Workshop, and I was like, okay, well I'll come along. And my teenage years were quite
different.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, just basically chasing drink and drugs.
Yeah.
I'm not shy about admitting that, you know, as a teetotaler now. And, you know, so when friends were going in there and they were, like, getting into painting, because of my dyspraxia, I was shit at painting. So they would, like, do, like, Catchans, or they would do Space Marines, and, like, everyone was really into Blood Angels back then. It was, like, because that was, like, the alternate colour. That was, like, the, like, you know, the one to go for. And I remember, like, I was just really awful, and I started painting some Tyranids, and I was, like, it just didn't last for me because of my dyspraxia. I was just, like, so cack-handed, and, like, I didn't realise that, like, there's a backwards way of learning. When you are neurodivergent in some way, there is a different way of going about it. And yeah, so like Alex, like he could. I'm pretty sure I could put you two in a room and that's it. Like you'd be
Record done.
Well, you say that because we started a show ages ago, which we need to pick back up again, called Two Guys One Cup, where we just chat to Alex about 40k lore. So like he learns it all because he absorbs it like it because he's got massive dyslexia, but he loves to absorb the books.
Yeah.
And I just go, "What's this?" And he just goes on for about 2 hours, and it's fantastic because it means like I basically have my own Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Like for 40k.
Play. I need to know this lore. Play.
It's so great. And then he's like, and then go to Luton and watch these videos, then go watch this content creator, and then go, and it's just like, and that's it. So like, to know that like you obviously came in like 3rd edition. To bring it back to yourself, because this is an interview about you, not me.
Oh, is
it? This is the problem. Is like once I get going on a tangent, like everything else is just like and then I can go. So you started at like 3rd edition, and was that reading the books? Was that just gaining some models, and then
a bit of everything?
Yeah,
honestly, a bit of every part of the hobby. I enjoyed fantasy as well. Some people that if they already know me, I love my dwarves, I love my stunties, hold the grudges, all that jazz. I love them to absolute bits, and I just collected little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I never really had a big army at the time. Growing up on a farm and stuff like that.
Expensive.
It was expensive back then. Obviously, it's a lot more expensive now for different reasons. Reasons. And I just collected it because I enjoyed them. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I got this model. It represents this in the story, so on and so forth. Azrael, XYZ. And I just ticked away with it. Just ticked away through the years, XYZ, and it carried on. And then, say, the similar time to when I paused, my YouTube, I paused to Warhammer. Yeah. On and off. Because I had to concentrate on college and uni and being a father. Yeah. And they take precedence. No. And I was like, funnily enough, they kind of take more time, yeah. Yeah, no, they it's really a strange one. And then, obviously, like I said, swinging back into COVID, I was like, wait a minute, there's this bubble coming back. I was like, wait a minute, where's all my old models that I've been tinkering away with when I have 5 minutes pace, I plod away with, say, Black Templars or something like that. And I was like, oh, let's just hit the refresh and carry on. And that's where we kind of are now, 4 or 5 years later. Yeah. And it's kind of very much an eye-opener because it's, for me personally, I never thought it would get anywhere. Like, it still hasn't really got, like, big, but I'm meeting people such as yourself and many other people. And it's strange because Cornwall, we've discussed it before, is so... It's so small, but also it's so isolated
and disjointed, and just everything is so broken apart.
And you kind of like you throw a stone, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's someone else doing stuff down here. I didn't even realise it's the other side of the hedge. They go, ow, I'm doing it, and I'm like, oh, you are. Oh, exactly. Welcome. That. And it's strange. Whereas up country, when I've met up with people now, they're like, yeah, my mate who's 2 hours away, we meet up every like month and play this, and this. I'm like, wait a minute, you travel 2 hours? Yeah. I get to struggle to people travel 20, 30 minutes. Yep. And it's a different mindset. Yeah. It's a very different mindset. And public transport we're on about.
Which, I'm not going to sugarcoat, like down here public transport is
bad.
It's hard. It's like the fact that like the closest bus stop to where you came to today is half a mile that way. Half a mile's not that bad. You know, if we were Yorkshire, it's like, oh, I used to work 43 miles to get to bus stop. You know, we're not going to do that. But it's down there. But the buses are like every 2 hours, and the second one is not going to go to the same place as the first one. And you're like, how does this work? Who runs this?
And there's no easy footpath. It isn't like you're walking on a pedestrian footpath. No. It is a back road. Yeah. It's a farm road.
It's a 40-mile-an-hour road.
Yeah, and if someone's flying, you get clobbered. And I know that's a bit of a tangent, but that is part of Cornwall. That is part of its beauty that I love, that you can drive 30 minutes and you're in a completely different part of Cornwall, and it's beautiful, it's idyllic, and stuff
30
like
minutes,
that.
40 minutes up the road is King Arthur.
There
like,
you go.
You've got Tintagel, and it's like, everyone's like, oh, do you not go there every weekend? It's like, I haven't been there in 2 years.
Yeah,
like,
because it's just around the corner.
Yeah.
And it's how people think of up country. I say up country, you go past the Tamar, that's up country for us. That's the border, by the way, between Cornwall and...
For anybody who's not from Cornwall, anybody who's watching this from like any of our Americans, any of our other friends, there's a big river that separates Cornwall from the rest of the UK.
Yeah, big river.
It puts it in that Wales, Ireland, Scotland bracket.
Yeah. And it's so different when you do meet these other people, whether in person or on social media, and it's different mindsets.
Yeah.
Like I've done obviously long factor streaming, charity streams,
Yes,
stuff
you
like
have.
that. 24-hour streams, yay! I got a bit of a reputation for doing that in the past.
And I do want to chat to you about those as well. So we'll carry on with this one, and then I'm going to pull on that thread.
By all means, and meeting all the different people, doing those longer streams, doing those longer content, you're going into different time zones.
Yeah.
So you're meeting different people in different countries. That's
Yes.
why meeting, because you are still chatting to them and
You're
stuff
still
like that.
networking.
And their mindsets are so like, wait a minute, you're so similar and yet so different at the same time in a good way. And having that variety is key, because I do think that sometimes if you get stuck in your way, you kind of don't move on.
No, and I agree. And you said about like meeting people like ourselves. We're a small, minute channel compared to yours, and then yours, I think is this amazingly large channel. And then you look at like, we can then go onto YouTube and then be like, we're nothing. We are a speck of a speck of dust dropped into an ocean.
It's scary.
It's but that's kind of we all have to start somewhere, and obviously you're doing these charity streams and stuff. And again, I'm going to pull on those in a minute. But like for anybody who's watching who is looking to get into streaming their hobbies, because this is a hobby. This isn't like you've gone, well, other people are doing it, I'm going to now stop painting models and try and make money off it. It's not like it's your, a business that you've looked at on the outside and gone, that's what I want to do. This is your interest, your peak, your everything that you kind of absorb content-wise. How would you, if someone's going to try and get into it themselves, how would they go about that?
Okay, it's going to sound a bit obvious. What do you actually want to get out of it? What do you want to actually do with it?
Yeah.
For yourself, role play, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, something about you enjoy your D&D, your role plays, so on and so forth.
Do indeed.
So that is something you're going to dive into and produce content on. So if someone's really into ancient history wargaming, for example, bolt action, great advocate for what they do, you would then start showcasing those.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there is no point you feeling like, oh, I need to chase the next trend.
Yeah.
Because you'll never stop chasing.
Agreed.
And you'll deflate yourself doing it.
Yep.
I learned that the hard way.
Yep.
I'm going to hold my hands up. I learned that very much the hard way. And it burnt me out big time.
And it does burn you out. It really, really does.
Yeah.
So I think. Yeah. So what the thread that I get from that is that you're saying, ask yourself the question. If you're going to start this, go, what are you into, and what are you going to get the most enjoyment out of? Because that seems to be, and again, as a channel, like last week, you should have seen me. I was so stressed because I had so much going on with so many other people that I was just like, it wasn't like a losing control thing, but it was like I couldn't focus on the enjoyment. I was then focused on the content.
Yes.
And you then, you talk about chasing, and I was chasing that week. And I was like,
kill it.
oh.
You kill your enthusiasm.
I did. And for the week, I was just so stressed out. And I was like, I was like, I need to go to bed. I need to chill out. I'm just...
Stop.
Yeah. And especially for playing TTRPGs and roleplay games, because they are play pretend, and you are socially interacting with a group, that would then bleed out, and I could then basically influence somebody's game with my own negativity. So it's like, no, actually I need to take a step back. I'm doing this for the fun, and I know that other people now want to also take part, and we're trying to build a platform, which is the point. But I need to remember what's fun, and I need to remember that actually I don't need to chase this. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it's not, it's not. Don't worry about it. And I love that your first thing is to say, ask the question. What are you going to get the most enjoyment out of?
And be honest with yourself, because I'm having to do that now, coming to the end of this year, because this year has been one hell of a year.
It's been a big year for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, for good and for bad, 100%. It's been one hell of a year, and it's made me have to think of, for myself, don't be afraid if you are getting into streaming, making content, TikTok. God, I sound really old. Like, do all those TikTok things you do. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to reassess yourself.
Yeah.
Like, actually go, look back, look at your achievements, look at going, realistically, could I have done this? Could I have not done this?
Yeah.
Give yourself a pat on the back and go, cool, what do I want to do the next 6 months? Don't ever do, learned it, as I said, the hard way. Don't ever go, I want to do it this month. No, give yourself slightly longer goals, because then you allow yourself that little bit of time to slip back. Like you said, if you have that burnout, you got time to recover, to not keep punishing yourself.
It's almost like fluidity.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, when we look at your channel for the past year, because you have been doing 24-hour streams. I mean, do you want to tell everyone what's been going on with 6 Plus Save? Because it has been one hell of a year to watch. Like, and I'll put like links to Mark's channel in the description below, and I'll put like links to social media, because like, you tell them what's been going on.
What have you been seeing? That's the thing.
Well, I mean, if we start going backwards in time, obviously your most recent thing is going away for the birthday event for your, to Warhammer World. Then we've got like the charity events. We've also got like, you are working closely with another local company, which is TT Combat, who make terrain, who make paints. There's been, obviously last year was a release of a Kickstarter for paints, which is then like tied into your channel. So like between like, I mean, it's almost 2 years now, really, it's been quite big. Of that, like, for me, from that Kickstarter launch of the TT Combat paints through to now, where like you've just hit some like what I would call mega milestones with small YouTubers like ourselves, like hitting those, like, is it like 5,000 or 7,500 now on certain bits?
It's certain numbers, and when you add them all together, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, when you realise there's an audience in the room, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, and it is a weird one when it comes to YouTube and stuff like that, because you are at the beck and call of the algorithm. Whether we like to admit it or not, we are
fucking soul destroying.
Yeah, because that's where I'm having to reassess my own content.
Yep.
And Games Workshop wins 100% on YouTube, social media. It wins 100% of the time. The big one is 40k.
Yeah.
Then AOS, Middle Earth, so on and so forth. And it is one of these very weird, soul-destroying moments where you produce content, it takes you X amount of time to produce that content.
You're so proud of it.
Yeah, and you love it, because you have spent X amount of time on it. Some people may say, I've spent 200 hours on my video, I've spent 20 hours, I've spent 2 hours. It's still valid, you've still spent time and money.
Blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah, on that. And then you kind of go, because it's not part of that algorithm, it flops. And you're like...
It's chewed up and spat out the other side of the YouTube machine.
And it was like, oh my god. But then on the plus side of it, when I was first starting YouTube many years ago, I was affiliate. I was earning some pennies off YouTube. It wasn't anything big. It was like a tenner a month.
Yeah, it's really nothing.
I'm gonna make big stonks off of this. And then YouTube changed.
Yeah.
Because of data protection and child protection and all this and all that.
And rightly so.
Yeah. Not disputing that at all. It just changed overnight. Like, within a couple months, it completely changed.
They didn't say anything to anybody, and then...
And they done it.
Yeah.
And it's taken me about 3 years, on and off, to then get that affiliate back up and get that running.
Yeah.
And when you look back, you go, oh my god, I've actually achieved that. Because when you first start seeing the data of what you need to do, active watch hours is a big deal. It isn't just clicks on videos
4,
where you clickbait. Minimum.
And that's actually something that what I found for a short while, especially when I was doing so a lot of the social media side of it on Instagram rather than the channel, because the channel wasn't really born until 2022, but I was doing my own personal stuff on Instagram before that. And for anybody out there who again is looking to get into content creation, it's I now understand why social media managers get paid a lot of money to sit there and look at social media all day, because you have to chase the algorithms, and they constantly change. So like when Meta changed Instagram, and I'm sure your reach got affected as well, and it went from, it was so like Again, like my personal one was like 3,500 followers, and I was so proud of that because I was chasing the numbers, and I wasn't stopping, and I was posting every day, and I was like, oh, I best go paint a mini so that I've got something to post, and I was getting burnout, and I was following it, but at least I was getting that hit of like, okay, 3,500 followers, it's going up, and I'm meeting new people, I'm following new things, and then it was like, you would get that dopamine hit of going, okay, 3,500 followers, and it's going to like, wow, 70% of interaction. That's massive.
Oh yeah,
that's huge. And then the algorithm changed, and people got put into categories of like, okay, now it's changing for you, and now it's changing for you, and the rollout happened, and I got hit on like one of the first rollouts, and I was like, from 60-70% engagement to 3%. And I was like, oh, yeah. It all meant nothing.
I was in that. I was in that, and I've always said on like my own little Discord I have and stuff like that, if people want to talk to me about social media, starting YouTube, Twitch, whatever, come and have a chat with me. I'm more than happy to kind of direct you. I'm not gonna like pull you by a lead and you've got to do this, this, and this. I'll be like, this is what I learnt. Here's the information. You now make your way. If you stumble, give me a call, give me a chat.
Yeah.
I'll help pick you up, because it was a weird one. I never really had that when I was doing it.
Yeah.
But now being able to network with people,
yeah,
you realise how integral that is.
Yeah.
Because you then realise you're not an island. You're not on your own, and you can help each other. And it's just truly great, because that's how I was able to learn, oh, by the way, the algorithm's changed. I've got to adapt and change, but also my mindset has to adapt and change.
Exactly that.
This ain't a job.
No.
I was chasing it like you, going, I want the numbers, I want the dopamine, I want the rush.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing anything else.
Nope.
And as soon as I was getting a bad number, my mood was connected to that number.
It's interesting, isn't it?
And I didn't like that.
No.
Like, genuinely, when I was looking back, I'm like, oh my God, you silly sausage.
Yeah.
Why were you doing that?
You can swear here. We really, like, I think I use the C-bomb on every stream I use. Like, you're fine. Like, we're past the first 2 minutes, and there's a YouTube algorithm for you. Don't swear in the first 2 minutes of your video.
Kill it,
there are certain words you're allowed, but the C word, which is the one I drop a lot, don't say that. Don't open a stream with it.
No. And it's so different, and that's where I'm having to realise what myself, like I say, and reevaluate what content you want to do. A lot of my content is Games Workshop related and 3D printing, and the more touchy subjects, like we discussed before we started anyway, of 3D printing when it comes to wargaming.
So like intellectual property and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you do 3D printing as well. It's not just painting streams. It's not just like, I'll talk about the community stuff in a minute, because actually I really love your community-driven stuff, and I really want to showcase that. But you do also have your own store as well, don't you? You have your own like little 3D printing store where you've got like minis, models and stuff, where I assume you have license access to Patreons and everything else. And again, we'll link that below, because there is some amazing stuff on there, like the Primora stuff, and like the pauldrons, and like the adaptations for things that for so long Games Workshop were like, shut it down. Just like, and what I saw them doing, and this is my opinion, Games Workshop, is that they would see somebody selling 3D prints or 3D printing services, and they would shut them down. And actually, they're not really allowed to do that. What they have to shut down is the person creating them. And they weren't doing that, and they were attacking the people that were printing. And actually, no, because that's a service that people are paying for, not necessarily. They're not taking your IP and creating it. But now they seem to have stepped back a bit from that and gone, we're obviously not, we can't fight this. It's going to happen. Because it also ties into the fact that some people are purists. Some people will only go sprue only, and other people are like, no, I want this marine to have this.
I want customization galore.
Exactly. You know? So I guess for 6+8, because obviously you accommodate to both these communities. Tell us about your store.
So with the store, Mark 6 Printing Services, funnily enough, it's got 6 in it. So it's very much like that idea. I was like, wait a minute, there's so many printing services or printing items out there, Etsy and other stores. And I was like, why don't I give it a dabble? And I got a 3D printer. That was a weird story where I wanted to buy the Lionel Johnson 40K model when it came out, the 10th edition, ninth edition one at the time, and his book. And I lined up on their store. I was in their queue. People that know me knew I wasn't a very happy bunny. Because basically, it was in the queue, and by the time I got out the queue, everything had sold, and it was already on eBay for triple the price.
Oh my god.
And I was livid. My partner actually was like, Mark, you need to go for a walk. I was like, this is my Primark. Like, this is my Primark.
This is like your guy, the one that you need.
And I just threw my toys out the pram. I'm going to be adult enough. I threw my toys out the pram. I said, that money I put to one side, screw it, I'm going to buy a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Because I've been looking at 3D printing for years.
Yeah.
I was like, and there was a sale on.
Yeah.
So I bought the printer. A couple of days later, arrived and went, printer go, brr, let's give it a go, and calibration tests and all. And it isn't as easy as just print. You've got to do a lot of...
Each printer has its own quirk.
Yeah. And
yes, they do.
Yeah, and that's part of what I want to do in my YouTube as well, is I show behind the scenes of stuff, of how to actually get into 3D printing and customization. That's part of it. I want to actually show what happens behind the scenes and how you can get into it, and I want it just to be entry level stuff, like don't think of has to be all this pretentious stuff. Oh my god, 3D printing will kill you. No, as long as you're safe and careful and know what you're doing.
And that's something we always promote here as well, because obviously I work a lot with resin, I work a lot with 3D printing as well, and also Richard, who sponsors a lot of our shows, his literal company is a 3D printing company, Warrior Prints 3D, so we literally, like, you know, because my time's so split everywhere, that I, you know, for example, like half the stuff on this table that's still here from a map that we've got to leave out, is printed by him because I don't have the time. Plus, I also then, there are so many different aspects to 3D printing, and it's like, where do you jump in?
Yes.
And I think that I think you jumped in at the same place I jumped in. You grabbed an Ender 3 for the FDM printing. Yeah. I don't know what resin printer you got, but it was one of the ones I remember just being like,
is a Whirlpools.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And actually, it's thanks to videos like yours and other people throughout the community. Like, I remember when Black Magic Craft got an Anycubic Photon S.
God, that blew up 3D printing so much.
Yeah,
because he's so well known.
And I got that printer because I was like, I watched the videos religiously, so that because part of my learning problems are that I will like hyper focus and I go, right, okay, memorize the video. That way I don't have to read the manual that's right there, and I can go, he said do this, I do that,
do it, yes.
It works. And it's great because we talk about getting into hobbies, getting into communities. Getting into 3D printing is terrifying.
Oh, 100%. I am not denying that at all. Like,
but it's easier than you think.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's a double-edged sword because it's like with any community, wargaming community, you have toxic members in there. Sports, you have toxic members. Every community has some form of toxic members, and with 3D printing, they can be toxic.
So I luckily haven't had that yet.
Oh wait, they can be.
I don't want to. I don't. If you're gonna sit here, luckily I don't sell that many 3D printers. That's not my whole thing. So fuck off. But like
I've only ever had one or two, and they jogged on because I gave them polite.
Fuck off.
And it's like with any community, you do have that, but on the other side, they are so encouraging and so welcoming.
And that's what I found.
Yeah, and if you have a problem with your printer, X issue,
somebody else has probably had that problem.
Yeah, because it's so vast now, because people want to get into wargaming, or bus, or dioramas, or whatever, and they don't have access to stores, distributors, postage, because that was one thing after COVID. Postage went through the roof.
Yeah, it's still up there.
Yep.
Especially when
it's never coming back down.
Do you ship internationally?
Yes.
Do you cry every time?
Yes.
I'm like, I'll send out a set of dice that weigh like 25 grams, and I'm like,
I'm like, is there any point? Okay, they've already bought it.
But there is, and actually, you pick on a point there. Is there much point selling internationally? Yes, I think. Oh yeah, 100%. Totally
because you don't want to punish those people because of the postage.
It's also, I think,
and you're supporting them.
You're supporting them, and I think that like something that actually takes me back to the question we asked earlier was like what to think about or what to do when you first begin it. If you're getting into 3D printing, the same thing. If you're going to look at turning it into a business, and I did this with dice, it is such an oversaturated market.
Oh yeah.
How do you sell in that community? So actually, what I did is I decided, well, actually, what I'd like to do is if I make me the brand, and then hopefully people go, well, I want those dice because Ian's made them. I want that because Ian's done that.
Yes.
And that's for me, somebody who is ancient and has been running businesses for years, who is no longer has any part in being part of being alive, they're that old, let alone, still taking part, had that key piece of advice for me. Brand yourself. Don't brand the product.
Yeah.
Brand yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It works.
It's, and we're still small in that, but you then end up having fun with it rather than just chasing the product. So getting into 3D printing seems like this daunting thing. And even I think in August we had an event in Falmouth and people were like, oh, so I've got this 3D printer, but it's just sat on the shelf. I was like, get into Facebook groups, get into find your particular brand, go join their Facebook group, go join their Discord, whichever, because the amount of people that will be there that just want to help, that just want, because it's all community driven software and stuff. It's amazing.
And what I try and do as well with my 3D printing, I have people contact me for more custom commission prints as well. And I've had a few recently. I won't say their names or anything like that. But they're like, oh, this Thingiverse thing, XYZ, how much would it cost and stuff like that? And I'm like, cool, I'll give you a quote in a couple of days, XYZ. It's very transparent back and forth with them. And if it's a little bit too pricey, fine, I can adjust it, XYZ. I am not trying to milk them or anything like that. But then also people I work with, friends I have and stuff like that, they'll be like, hey, Mark, could you do these shoulder pads? Could you do these weapons? I'm like, cool. It's just I basically charge the resin, the wear and tear, and time used. I wouldn't charge Etsy prices because I'm like, cool, whatever, I'm just helping you out.
Yeah, Etsy prices are hard. There's a reason I'm not on Etsy. But Etsy's the biggest search engine in the world.
Etsy, I was on Etsy many moons ago for t-shirts and stuff like that, and some people were asking me going, wait, why is your t-shirt like 20 quid or something like that? And I'm like, yeah, I make like £3 a t-shirt. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, because it's all the cuts. Obviously, manufacturing a t-shirt, XYZ, costs money. Posting it costs money. But then there's Etsy doing all these hidden costs and stuff like that.
Extra fees on top of it.
Don't realise. And I didn't realise until I started selling. I was like, oh, I've sold a t-shirt. Yeah. What?
We had a thing recently where we sold some merch and I ended up paying for it to go out. And it was so I think they spent something like £40-something, like £42, and I spent 44 for it to be made and sent out. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I should probably adjust my prices soon.
Yeah, and you don't realise that.
But I feel bad because we're nobodies and blop in the ocean. And it's can I charge this for a t-shirt when actually, I just want people in the community to have access to it.
Yes.
And that's the hard line to kind of get past at some point. And that's why when you talk about time, wear, and resin cost or material cost, that's obviously the big three when we look at being in any business. When we look at take any manufacturing product anyway, it's the rule of three. You take that cost, you add it all up, and then you times it by 3, and that's the cost of your product, which is why so many things cost so much. But the fact that you're you're not just going, here's my store, but you're also going, I am a 3D printing service. If you want, just message me. And it's such a lovely approach from anybody whose business might be look, just contact me. Just get in touch and we'll just talk about it. It is just a conversation. And if you don't want to spend the money, cool. It's let's not put you out of pocket.
Yeah. It's like you had tags on a little while ago. Daniel, if I remember.
Yes. Dan Marks.
Lovely chap. They done a charity event that I helped participated with last year for Man Down.
Yeah.
And they wanted objective markers and stuff like that with the Man Down logo. So I made the objective markers, printed them out, and it was just basically, like I said, it was the wear and tear, raw cost of materials, and time PPE and stuff like that. Done. Just went, there you go, it's for a charity event.
Yeah.
It's covered my cost and time for it, my wear and tear on the machine. Done.
Yeah.
Some people, when you say, oh, you should have done it for free for a charity, I'm kind of like,
yeah,
yes and no, but then I'm still not marking it up as an actual commercial business.
There are certain cases you do that. You have to judge each one
on case by case.
Case by case. You can't a charity, therefore it's free, because actually, if a charity could turn around and go, we need 1 million of these, and you're like, oh, that's going to cost me £1 million to make them.
X, Y, Z.
So,
and I still run it on a slight loss because I was like, cool, it's for a charity, Man Down, do a lovely thing, and I love doing stuff for charities, 24-hour streams, so on and so forth. I have got plans for doing more of those. I want to punish myself, why don't I? It is a very big thing for me, and this year has been a bit of a wake-up call for me because I've had family relations with the big C. And that hit me very hard. It still has. And that's why I was always doing charities before, because I had other family relations with that. And it makes you actually think.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of go, cool, you got to do stuff with your life and support people. 100%. You know, I'm not going to be preachy or anything like that, but make the most out of it.
Because you only get this time once.
Yeah.
And actually, that brings me back to the bit that I really want to chat about with you, is that you have been doing charity streams. You've been doing 24-hour streams. You've been doing so many different events. Take us through, obviously, like, you don't have to go into detail about things like Big C. We're not here to, like, chat about that. That's your personal life. And,
I've already announced that on my own charity.
You're a charity now, eh? Someone's going tax-free.
My own streams, and I've done my own social posts about it to let people know what's going on.
Yeah, as long as you're comfortable with it. That's something that we pride ourselves on here, is that we always try and be a safe space for mental health and stuff, because, old PTSD brain over here is like, he gets it. But no, take us through the past, I suppose, year and a half, really, because actually 2 years when we look at the 24-hour tags event, which I took part in the 24-hour one this year. What have you been up to? Those streams, those charity events, and what were they all made of?
So the main ones that I was doing recently, or I've been doing a few of them on the side that I would just donate. Like, I'd be like, oh, whatever money I got off Etsy or my store for like a year, I never really announced it, but I was putting 10% of that money into charity. I was just doing it off my own back. I was like, I'm not going to do any big, and I haven't even announced it. This is the first time I've actually said about it, funnily enough. So
you don't even get to put exclusive on it? No.
Yeah, so 10% of my profits was going straight towards Macmillan Cancer Support, because of it needs all the help it can.
Yeah.
It affects so many people.
Yeah.
And I can say, hand on heart, it affects me a lot because of my mother.
Yeah.
She's terminal. And it's kind of that weird feeling of when you get told, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it's. I've been very fortunate that I've not had to experience that. I've had other things in my life, but not. You obviously, like the Big C and like that whole terminal like conversation where you think of the movies and you think things you could, like that tinnitus going. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest. Like, you're not just going to go, okay, back to normality. Changes everything in your life, the priorities, everything you do.
And that's where it's kind of then going, I got the luxury of being able to network with people and being able to do these streams with people. And Mind were up at the birthday get-together I had with a few local people up at Warhammer World. Yeah. And they were there, and I was like, oh, hi there, Steve, and stuff like that. One of the head ones there, and I had Miniature Apothecary there. He was donating a army that was for a charity thing up there as well. And it was just like being able to meet the people that we've done stuff with. It's such an eye-opener of that network inside. You actually see people the other side of the screen in person, and you realise they are a person.
And they're real.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
That's the strange thing about it. And just being able to be like, you're not alone. That's going back to the whole, you're not an island. You can talk to people. You can network with people.
Absolutely.
And it is when I do the 24-hour streams, which, as I said, I've got plenty in the pipeline. It was like Macmillan support. As I said, I've done a bit of support for Mind in my own time. Canine Crusaders, which is a local one.
They're there. Yeah, they're literally down the road.
Yeah.
And both of us have dogs. We both have,
Yes.
I see yours on your stream very often. Mine's currently in the living room, who's on the naughty step at the moment, bless her.
Naughty. And the thing is, I was born and raised on a farm.
Yeah.
So having that attachment to animals, I'm not one of these touchy-feely animal people, but I have a lot of respect for animals. And
I fucking love animals, I am.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I have that kind of like...
But no, it's... You're a human who's decent.
Yeah,
it's like,
I hope so.
You're not a dickhead, basically.
Oh, I put on a good facade.
Well, we mask all day long.
But it's a real big eye-opener of going back to starting the streaming and the content and stuff like that, because what really pushed it was my job. My actual physical, pay the bills job is, funnily enough, I work for Troll Trader.
Yep.
And then I was doing some work for TT Combat, which is like a sister firm to them. I don't know the actual technical name, but
no, I don't either.
They are a sister firm.
But, I mean, they are Cornish companies.
Yeah.
They are Cornish war game. Like, if you don't know who they are and you're watching this and you're like, oh, there is more in Cornwall. There is so many fucking things here in Cornwall. It's unreal. And it wasn't until like, the past couple of years where I was like, oh, TT Combat and Troll Trader and then Modifius and you're like, oh my.
They start popping up.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, we're everywhere. Which is why I want to do this series because we have like
so much,
so many.
and it's kind of daunting because. It was strange because I was originally working, my previous job over COVID and stuff like that was OpenReach.
Yeah.
That fell through because with COVID you couldn't go into buildings and so on and so forth, so paper job, X, Y, Z. I then moved on to Troll Trader. That was very different. Working with models, it's kind of like, oh, this is cool. The luster kind of loses its luster after a while.
Yeah, it's when your hobby becomes your work and you're seeing it every day.
Yeah, it's one of these weird ones that I still have fascination when the older models come in and you're like, oh, this is an Imperial Dragon turns up.
But that's the like collector side of things where you're just like, that's
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's like if I find like certain Star Wars figures, I'm like, oh my god, that's a 2012 Han Solo and Carbonite. That's a Black Series one. They stopped breaking.
And your brain goes, and that's the great thing about it. And then the boss in there, he was like, "Oh, we're going to start a Twitch stream and stuff like that. I know you do a bit of the social media and stuff." I said, "Yeah, I do a bit." He was like, "I want you on it," and I was like, "Okay." So that's where the Troll Trader Twitch stream started out
again,
from.
We'll put links in the description below.
Yeah. And we were doing that, and then
because that's not just you, is it?
No. That is Troll Trader Twitch, Troll Trader and TT Combat. The Twitch stream has dropped off for the foreseeable future because of all the projects going on behind the scenes.
There's a lot happening there.
There's a lot which I can't go into.
No. We won't.
When I say there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, and but it's not just you that did the Twitch streams, though, was it? There's quite a few people that take part in
there was a good 3 to 4 minimum other people that we were going in rotation. And one of the big things we had the co-streaming going on.
Yeah.
So you'd have your main painter, streamer, but then you have your co-streamer beside you to bounce the conversations, and they would be doing work as well.
They're really good fun, and people should go check them out. And hopefully, I do hope those Twitch streams come back. Because again, being down here, and for me personally, because obviously this is my day-to-day now, which is strange. I get to sit in here, and when I'm editing something or when I'm working with resin, I can just turn on Twitch and I have it because I do, and I think turn on Twitch and I have that in the background. That's my TV.
Yeah,
and so it's nice to have
ambient noise as well.
Yeah, so it's nice to have. Like, it's how I know of you. Yeah. It's how I know of CT Combat and all that.
And it was just that's when the paint started being developed, or a little bit before that. Yeah. It was like, wait a minute. Behind the scenes, they were like, wait a minute, we produce models, we produce terrain, we produce games, we produce this. Why don't we produce paints? And that is a very, very dulled down version of the conversation. Many long time later, here's a Kickstarter for the first wave of paints.
Yeah, it did really well.
That done stupendously well. And then there was always behind the scenes of, we need to expand this. We don't want to just stay with these paints.
Yeah.
So that's why it's now 180 paints, technical paints like blood and rust and all this. And
but you have to do those to keep up with the market. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not going to sit here and have a conversation Troll Trader wise because obviously like we're here as Mark 6+ Save and I can't obviously ask you questions about that because that's just going to put you in hot water. But like companies do have to keep up with their competitors. And this is next is an opinion. And I have to state that because I'm about to mention Green Stuff World. Who, from what I've personally seen, have been a bit naughty in the world of it. I'm not going to get an opinion from you. I'm not going to get anything from you. But, like, we are, like... There are so many paint brands out there now. And, let's look at, like, the big ones, where we look at, like, who Troll Trader and TT Combat are competing against. The Army Painter. Huge, the other European one. Yep. Made out of, I believe it's Denmark. And, I've done streams with Adam from the Army Painter through Badgers and have been in touch with him. I've used Army Painter for years. Then, obviously, Duncan Rhodes comes out from GW. He brings out his paint range. Obviously, like... Already, he's a prime example of turning yourself into a brand.
Yeah, because it's followed because of him. And not because of the paint, it's him.
Exactly, and not to say the paint's not good. The paint is actually fucking phenomenal. Yeah. It's very, very good, and I would expect no less from Mr. Rhodes. Yeah. And then we've got obviously Games Workshop who have been bringing paints out for years. Then we've got TT Combat. who then joined the fray. You know, player 5 has entered the game, and
how do you make it your own?
Exactly.
That's the best way to put it. How do you make it unique to yourself?
Yeah,
Each one has its own strengths, weaknesses, as an identity.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a core. That was a core part of the designing. Was how is it we're going to be different, or how is that paint going to be different from these other ones? Which that's business 101.
Yeah.
And also swinging that background into creating your own content. How are you going to make yourself different?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people now on YouTube, because it's so easy to just get your smartphone
Beep, beep.
and go, hi guys, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 take photos, record.
Not only that, is they're fucking phenomenal cameras.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
Like, I'm recording something for Corvus Belly at the moment because they sent us out some stuff, and I'm using my phone rather than the studio cameras, because these are just like personal like HD cameras. This is like a 4K.
Yeah. And it's scary in a good way, and that's another thing swinging back into that is how do you make it yourself?
Yeah.
And I try to make my content myself by going, it's Cornish, it's me, I am open, I'm blunt somewhat, and I got a nickname up country, the Cornish Fruit Loop.
I love it.
And it was just like, okay, and I thought it was a passing comment. No, it's stuck.
Yeah.
It's just stuck.
Those ones do stick.
And it's like, okay, cool, whatever. It's my identity. I don't mind it. But that's me then. That is my identity. And it's like, you're known for Dragonborn and X, Y, Z. That is your identity. And that's the core thing. If you just try and keep chasing what's already there, you're just going to get lost.
Yeah.
You're just going to get lost. You need your own stamp.
It is.
Your own flair.
It's huge, and I think that takes me back to like all the different paint ranges, and obviously like TT had to compete against all of these other big names, and obviously at that same sort of time we saw like the Turbo Dork meets Green Stuff World issue where Turbo Dork called them Turbo Shifters and Green Stuff World were like, that's our thing, and everyone was like, chameleon paints have been around for years. What are you doing? And it was like, that's our intellectual property. And you've got obviously like as TT Combat fight against that and create things. But like to see that like you were then coming out with metallics, with effects paints that every other company does effects in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And you have to do those to keep up with them. But the fact that the TT stuff and the fact that you were working so close with it and me being able to watch that, I was like, I want these. Like, they are so good. And yeah, so for anybody who hasn't seen them, go check out Mark's page, because you paint with them a lot.
Yeah.
They're pretty much your sole paints now. I know you have others, but...
Oh, I'm not denying it. I have it on my social media, like the paint rack of the full set, but I'll still use contrast paints and things like that. Like I've now used them as part of my quiver, my arsenal.
It is your toolkit.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day when Known Oil, oh my god, I sound old for saying this, Known Oil and those shade paints came out and people were like, oh, it's cheating. Now it's just part of the process. Yeah. And it's like when contrasts and speed paints and stuff first came out, oh, they're cheating. Now people are like, no, it's part of the arsenal. And it's that kind of thing. I've always said, use what's ever comfortable for you. I say it in my streams, I say it in my videos. Use whatever you like. Yeah. Because I know a fair few people that I've actually met in person as well that have MS, muscular sclerosis.
Yeah, it's a word I can't say.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it for toffee. But people have restrictions in their movement, in their eyesight and stuff like that. So the slap chop style, which was funny, I met the person and the people that came up with that in person. I got drunk with them.
Nice.
That was a weird thing. And they were talking about slap chop and how it came about and the name and the terminology. And it was just basically a way of people being like, you shouldn't punish yourself for not being able to paint. This is a way of you making something look nice and presentable on the tabletop that everyone can then agree on going, that looks the part. The skin looks like skin. Fabric looks like fabric. Metal looks like metal.
Without having to go, and for people like us with dyspraxia, where like you have to learn backwards or you have to like do something again and again and again and again.
It's muscle memory.
Yeah, like trying to catch a ball. Like I spent years just reacting to catch a ball. Learn about dyspraxia. It's just hand-eye coordination nonsense up here. But like, and it's like, if you don't be worried about the new product, embrace it, make it part of your toolkit. And like, I struggle with contrast and speed paints, yet I find that Templar Black or Black Templar my favourite paint. Yeah. Because I quite literally, it works so well over white for weapons or to blackline things. Yeah. And I'm like, it's great.
And you adjust it accordingly.
Yeah. You take what you need, and it's like a menu. You're not going to order all the stuff you don't like from a restaurant. Order the bits you do like.
Yeah.
Try something new and go, yes, that's me, that's not for me. And I think that ties us back to your community, because what Mark does with his community is something that I admire greatly. Is you said about being blunt a minute ago, and you are. And you are very much like, well, actually, look, we're all here to have fun, and we're all here to sometimes take the piss, and we're all here to, basically share in the hobby, but we all come from different walks of life. And you have this amazing community mentality where, like, yeah, so what? Like, we can look at things like politics and stuff like that, but we try and keep out of those because we want to include everybody from all sides of the coin. And you have this amazing community of people where we can look at the world, especially at the moment where people are shouting and screaming at each other, and you're like, okay, cool, that is going on, but here, right now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about 40k. Let's talk about wargaming. Let's talk about painting. Let's have a little joke, but actually, it's such a safe space.
Yeah.
And you must be so proud to like see that your community have like stuck to that, and they haven't become a toxic community. They actually are one of the nicest communities I've seen out there.
Yeah, and it's like my Discord, my channel, stuff like that. It's small. It is small in the grand scheme of things, but I can happily say I network with other people, and they network with me, and their communities network with my communities, and vice versa. So as soon as you suddenly start adding those numbers up, it gets big. Like, we're able to be like, oh, by the way, hey, how are you at the meetup? I had people from their community coming up and wishing me a happy birthday and coming over and stuff like that, and vice versa. I had other people, and that's the thing. It isn't just one community. It's lovely that mindset is spread out.
It's like bubbles that interlock with each other.
Yeah, because they have the same mindset.
Yeah.
And it's just great to see that, because so many people want to come into the stream or the YouTube videos or the YouTube streams, because I'm able to do both, and they want to get away from it.
Yeah.
Something's happened in their day and they just want to chill out from work and they just want to come in, hobby. They may vent, they may go, oh, I had a bad day, X happened. And I'm like, terrible to hear that. What are you going to be doing? I'm going to be doing this. Cool, come on, show me some photos and move, and then we'll move on. Not that I'm disregarding what's happened.
No, but it's trying to help them out in a way of like
and
that
pull them
escapism.
away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you do it in such a lovely way, and I think that I've seen it where you've had people from your Discord then call in on the show. And and it's one of those things where like it's almost like kind of like what we're doing here. You've created a platform rather than just a streaming channel where people have not necessarily a voice, but something that they can then take part in.
Yeah.
And while also having that escapism and having that connectivity to be social humans, you've nailed it.
Yeah, because thank you. Like, honestly, it's when I'm in the stream and I'm on a longer stream and I have like my Discord open, I'm like, cool, anyone want to have a chat? You can chat in the chat room and stuff like that. You can chat with me. They just know the rules, that if they go in there, they don't say certain things.
Yeah.
Done. Is that kind of common sense?
Yes, and that's
because they know straight away, mute, gone.
And that's it.
And I've had to do that.
Yeah, we all had to.
They've learned.
Yeah, the mod hammer does have to come down, because we do have to protect our brands, and we do have to offer a safe space for people, and where things can be said as a joke. Sometimes to other people, it's that's going to hit close to home for them, and you seem to be a very fair and very just moderator of your own channel, and just going, come in, let's pull away from that, let's chat about this, and it's amazing.
Because the rule I said from ground zero is any age can come in and watch this live content. My YouTube stuff, where it's my videos, I edit, I have very much control over it, but when it's live streaming,
it's a lot harder, right?
Yeah, people of any age can turn up, and I'm like, come on, we got to respect that. We could have a 10-year-old turn up at, Babby's first wargaming stream, and I'm like, no, I want it to make sure it's inviting and they're encouraged to keep up with that, because maybe it's their father has got them into it, and they're like, oh, I want to paint up X, insert X, and they're like, yeah, cool, let's watch this stream.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure it's a safe space. It's not fully cotton-walled, but it's still a safe, inviting space.
It's you sort of have to find your own niche with it, don't you? And I guess this ties back into chatting to people about if they're starting a stream or if you want to get into content creating. Is you do have to, you can't be tight on it all the time. You can't be like, no, here are the strict rules on that, because you aren't going to keep to those. No. You are going to find that some days you're going to want to be silly. Some days you are going to want to be close to the knuckle. And like, I am so very close to the knuckle with a lot of my humour that like, it can be risky, but like I think that our community knows that.
Yes.
But it's also reading the room kind of thing, and it's like, right here, right now, we're sat here having what is essentially a professional interview, where it's quite well. I mean, if you think about it,
in the grand scheme of things, yes.
Yeah, we're sat here to try and hopefully promote your channel and stuff. I'm not going to sit here and be a twat. I'm not going to be like, hey, and then it's just, hey, it doesn't work. You've got to read the room.
It may work. You may get a spike in that bit.
Yeah, it could do, but I don't think I can pull it off yet. I don't think.
Fair
whereas,
enough.
like with Starfinder, because I'm so used to my players, and I know that we have players around the table who are bisexual or have trans members of family, and are comfortable with us going, "Ha, gay," but I wouldn't do that on other things. Yeah, I know that it's safe
where to play with. Yeah,
who I'm with, and that's the main thing. And I think that it's so risky when you are live and you're bringing in an audience, and because then somebody could say something, you're like, "Oh, actually, I've got to stop you there." Because this isn't the platform for that. And it's so interesting. And I think that you are so accommodating of so many people, and you are still able to be a decent human about it, and not to be like, this is my channel, my rules, this is it. It's admirable to see.
I try and give them the heads up, but luckily the people that are then in there, like the moderators and stuff like that, they're good as gold, because they're able to like self-sustain it.
Yes,
if
exactly.
that makes sense. They kind of gatekeep it themselves, at like, okay, come on, let's steer away from this. If the conversation goes a little bit too political for a bit, like, I'm not going to dodge around politics. Stuff could be happening, and people may want to discuss it for a moment, go, oh, it's a shame that this has happened, or fine, they voice their opinion,
or they could be the other side of that and they're really happy that something's happening.
There you go. And I'm not going to suddenly stamp them out, but then when it carries on, myself or the people in there are like, come on, let's move on, this is a miniature stream, not a talk show, and they get the message and they move on.
That
and it's just guiding. That's all it is.
And it's exactly that. It's perfect. I think as we come towards the sort of close of this, any big events coming up for 6+?
So one that I believe you're going to, good sir, is the Games Expo.
It is indeed.
Yes, they got my name wrong though.
I don't know if they'd already contacted you when I said there are also these content creators, because they were looking for more people, and I was like, check these guys out.
Yeah,
and,
because I went down there and chatted to them a few months ago. But yeah, on the dice roll, they're doing that expo, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, is it going to be big? Is it going to be quaint? Is it going to... What is it? Because there's a lot of people there, and it's going to be interesting. Like, genuinely, I'm excited to go, because with doing the streaming and stuff, I've been able to go to more conventions and see stuff more, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting.
For anybody who is in Cornwall and is looking for stuff to do, on the 30th of November, there is the Cornwall Games Expo, which is happening at Helston in a hall whose name I've forgotten the name of. It's the only hall in Helston.
I think it's that main village hall.
I'm going to have to Google it.
No, that's all good. I think there's about at least 12 people going.
It's the Guild Hall, isn't it?
Guild Hall, yes.
And there are... so it's run by Roll the Dice Cornwall, who...
their statement, their statement of what they do.
Yeah.
I love it. I went and I was chatting to them for a good 2 hours of my own time. Drove down, wanted to see what they were like, and I was like, I love you. So, it's lovely. It's so heartwarming.
I'm hoping to get them in on the show, but unfortunately, obviously with Pete at the moment and stuff, we're having to hold off for a little bit. But yeah, they are lovely, lovely people, and they are hosting what's going to be the first Cornwall Games Expo. The expo is going to be people like Mark, myself, so there's going to be content streamers there. But then also, are you going as a streaming capacity? Are you going as a seller capacity? Because there's also going to be stalls.
I'm going to go with a bit of both.
Same.
Right? So I'm going to have my content that I produce, actual miniatures, there up for sale. There's going to be some stuff that aren't normally on my site.
Yep.
So I'm going to have it there. People can buy it if they want. They can see it, X, Y, Z. But then I'm also going to be there as myself, like you are. And it's just going to be also a nice way of... not so much just networking for us, but also, dare I say it, networking with the public.
And it's exactly that.
Seeing it behind the screen.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's one thing. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you meet people from Twitch streaming or YouTube or stuff like that, and they're like, oh, hi, Mark, how are you? And
I was going to ask
you shake their hand, and you're like, hi, and I've now got to the point going, sorry, who are you?
You're not rude asking.
And you have to laugh, going, sorry, I don't know your face, I only know the names. And like, oh, don't worry, I'm XYZ.
Yeah.
First time that ever came across, I was like, what am I supposed to say here? What am I supposed to... And then it turned into a joke of, cool, when you go up to Mark, just have a name tag, please.
Yeah, so it's weird because I've chased the music industry for so long in previous jobs and bands and stuff like that, of like never making it, never having people at gigs, and never really being recognised for anything. And then I went to London December last year for Dragon Meet, and people were like, oh, it's you. And I was like, huh? And you see the head turn, and you see the point before anybody says anything, you're like, oh, I've either really pissed them off, or... And then they say something, and you're like, it's so fucking humbling.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's interesting, because Jack, who normally sits where you're sat, he is the most modest person in the world, and he turns it round instantly. It's like, oh, so what do you do? And so I'm like, fucking embrace it, mate. Fucking nom, 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 nom. Like, how do you find that? Like, because it must have been strange, because you do go to events, and you do go up country to, like, meetups and stuff, and to, like, Warhammer events, and then people are like, oh my god, it's Mark from 6 for Save. Like, strange, right?
It's still very, very, very strange, because I had it where I've met Guy from Midwinter Minis, I've met Sug, Savage, I've met Pete, I've met Duncan, I've met Phoenix, AC, and many
few names.
Many other people. I got drunk with a few of them, and that was so funny at the bar that we were just having a few drinks and stuff like that, and they're human, and they're like. Weird thing was, some of them actually kind of half recognised me before I recognised them, or I did recognise them, but I was like, oh, you actually know of me? How do you know of me? It's
strange, isn't it? It's like bumping shoulders, and you're like, not bumping, rubbing shoulders, sorry, and you're like, huh.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm on that level before anyone thinks, big head. No, I'm not.
No, but Mark is definitely not.
But they just knew of me. They know of what I do and where I work and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, hi. And it was just so... They are so human. Like, if you meet some of these people, they are lovely. If you have the chance to meet, like, Peachy, he is so loving. He's so passionate about the hobby. It's amazing. And then when you meet the hobbyists, because we are hobbyists.
We are just hobbyists.
We are hobbyists that have the luxury. we have the luxury of doing this. It is a luxury. It is a luxury for us. And when you're able to talk to people, I went to GriffCon now for the third time.
That's what I couldn't remember the name of it. Like, I know that you go to GriffCon quite a lot.
Yeah, because I helped start that one up.
Did you?
Yeah, I was kind of talking to people.
Well, that's something we could have added to the list of talking
It's all
about.
good, it's all good. And it's so weird. The very first time, that was my first convention I ever went to as 6 Plus Save. And I had my stuff out, my merch and all this and all that. And people were like, oh, hi. And like shaking my hand, I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, don't worry, I'm blah, blah, blah. And they were picking up the models and like, yeah, I remember you painting this from XYZ. And then they're bringing up their models and going, oh, I want you to have a look at it. And I'm like, okay. And they're like,
throw it on the ground.
And they're passing me these models and they're like passing them to me like they're children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And you can see the time and effort. And it sounds so weird unless you're in that situation.
Yeah.
You can see... They're staring at you like, I want to know what you think. And I'm like, it was offsetting to be in that situation of...
It feels like you're about to judge them.
Yeah.
But you're not.
And you don't want to judge them. And you choose to be like, okay, cool. Let's focus on what they want you to look at and stuff like that. And you just got that rapport back. And when I'm there at those conventions... I'm like, why is everyone coming to me? And there's other Twitch streamers there, like Essex, Gus, Brushes, Alchemist, who's a local from down here, and there's many other streamers there, Esmeralda and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are they? And it's like, because you're welcoming, you talk to people, you're a bit crazy, and you're just a hobbyist. I was like, okay. and it still hasn't sunk in.
No,
it will never sink in, because that's what I was talking to Peachy and Duncan about. I was like, how do you get used to people like admiring you? And they're like, we don't.
Yeah, and I think
just don't get used to it.
It's very hard thing, because you are such a humbling dude, and you know, I come from like a theatre kid kind of background and stuff, so like, you know, the appraise is always great for me. I mean, if somebody's like that, I'm like, I try and be, you know, humble about it, but
it's
like,
nice to get the praise.
There is like a needy part of me that is like, but I do like it.
Yeah.
You give it to me.
No one doesn't like praise.
No.
It can be a bit uncomfortable when it's like, where did this come from?
But it's interesting because it is very rewarding when somebody recognises you and somebody goes, oh my god, I really like this, or I like this that you've done, and then they do want to interact with you, and they do want to, because they take part on stream, but now they have the real you, the human you, not the screen you, and that's like, well, this is what I've done while I've been doing it, and I think it's one of the most rewarding things when somebody comes up and says, oh, you know, I've wanted to get into dice making, I followed your videos, and therefore I've done these, and I'm like, that's fucking incredible. Like, that's amazing. One, that you've gone and done it yourself. I fucking love that. So I must, the idea that people like bring you a model and go like, you know, I did this while I was watching you, or like, can you tell me what you think of this? I love it.
Because you've sparked that creativity.
Yeah, I love
because that. I've done some very OSL themed Black Templars.
Yeah.
It's city burning, moonlight from above, flaming from underneath. And it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. I do enjoy them. They're quick and they're effective. And I had a lot of people coming up to me, pardon me, going, oh, I've tried your OSL on their models.
And you should fucking go try it out. It's fucking cool.
And they're like, I'm like, what? Sorry, you absolutely blasted out the water. And they're like, what? I was like, you made my ones look like crap. And they're like, no. I was like, no, seriously, you have. Like,
I quit Twitch.
And they're like, oh, no. I was like, no.
That's good.
Go with it.
It's
and
good.
then they've contacted me weeks later going, here's another model I've done. And you can tell the enthusiasm and the love for it.
That also then leads into the Discord and how you can then be like, put it in the Discord, get the rest of the community involved. Yeah. Because and your Discord's quite open, isn't it? It's open to like a lot of the community.
100%.
Is that the kind of thing we'll put in the description below?
Anyone and everyone can come in. It has its quiet moments, it has its busy moments. It's like with any Discord, because it's not hyper over the top fixated on one particular thing. It's so broad and open. It's a double-edged sword.
Yes.
In a good way. Because if you go on...
It's very chilled.
Yeah. And if you go on to some Discords which are like 40k related, or Drop Fleet, or Dungeons and Dragons, they are very much segregated, and you get pings all the time, which is great, because if you want to know something about a faction or a mechanic in your game, great resource. My one, I just wanted to be like, cool, just throw your stuff in there, have a chilled out time. And if I'm streaming and I go, cool, chat room's open, you can chat to me, done, which funnily enough, at the time of recording this, I've got to go home and then paint and stream, because I've got a commission for work I'm painting up. Nice. Yay. So I'll be streaming that.
How stressful do you find commissions? It's all when you're painting something until somebody pays you for it, and then you're like, please don't fuck this up, please don't fuck this up.
Basically,
That's why I don't do it. I'm like, no, fuck that.
Because that's another thing I get asked quite a lot, is how do you get around with commission painting and stuff like that? And it is very much, you've got to have that right mindset. You've got to realise that it's not for you, it's for the client, whether that might be some terrain, an individual figure, a squad, an army. It can be very rewarding because you're painting something different, 100%. But then if you're painting a whole army and it's not for yourself, halfway through it you're like, oh, I want to be painting my own stuff. Yeah, but then you know you're getting paid.
Yes, exactly that.
So yeah, that's the adult side of it.
It is, and that's kind of the way it is. We are going to have to bring this to a close, however. I suppose the final question would be, is where can people find you?
In Cornwall.
And that's it. There's no links to Cornwall except the Tamar Bridge and the A30. No.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. I don't go on Twitter. No, that's not a really good place.
I'm trying to leave it.
Yeah, it's not a great place.
You're on Blue Sky yet?
No.
We're on that now.
Oh, okay. I have to give that a go. And do have Discord, but the easiest one to really find me is YouTube or Twitch. Yeah. Because I have everything else linked up, because I have Instagram as well. I'm more than happy if people want to chat to me on Instagram. funnily enough, we send like stories and stuff to each other. It's quite funny, actually.
Yeah,
you kind of see that weird like stories, and it's just lovely, just being able to chat to people.
It is.
But yeah, that's going to be best bet, YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah, and we'll put the links to all of those into the description below. Once again, thank you, Mark, for coming along and chatting to me. Thanks to all of you who are watching this Wasson Cornwall series, and those of you who are either coming into the channel, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, because that actually really does make a difference at the moment when we talk about the algorithms. It really does help us out. If you already know who Mark is, share this video about. If you don't know who Mark is, I said Marcus is, then I was like,
it's all good.
Mark is, like the etymology of words failing me there. Then please go check out all of those channels. His painting work is incredible. The dude is just a lovely, lovely guy.
I'll send you a check later, don't worry.
We're not a monetized channel, don't pay me for this. I do it for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And until we start getting paid, then I'll start becoming a dickhead.
Fair enough.
No,
so next week.
I fucking, no, it's probably not going to happen. Yeah, please go check out Mark. Please go check out 6 Plus Save. The events that are coming up are awesome, and also the fact that you just take part in so many community-driven things down here in Cornwall. If I don't see you before, I'll see you at the event in the end of November. Guys, thank you so much. May those dice gods be ever in your favour, and we'll see you next time.
Ta-ra for now.